welcome back to the Joseph Ryder Anderson podcast. I'm your host, Joseph Anderson, and today we're going to be talking about one of my new favorite anime, and that is Sakamoto Days. And this is the latest set to come out for Union Arena. It's coming out early release May 22nd, 2026, and the full release is 1 week later. This set, last time I checked, was still pretty hot on the secondary card market in terms of values. It was still reasonably expensive to get a case, but it's still not quite as crazy as something like Solo Leveling, so things have definitely cooled down just a little bit. But while this set doesn't have any decks in it that are likely to redefine the meta, I think as a whole, the set does further highlight the direction the meta is going, that recent powerful sets like Evangelion or Kagurabachi even, or Sword Art Online Volume 2, they've been sort of pointing the way towards where the game's going. I think that a set like Sakamoto Days just really hits it home, because this set is really all about leveraging powerful characters to get additional plays from your hand primarily, or from other places, but additional plays in your turn. I think that's the thing that's really been standing out to me ever since Evangelion came out. I think Evangelion really was the first set that put such an emphasis on free playing characters. And also at the same time, Sword Art Online Volume 2 had a lot of really powerful characters that could free play. And moving forward, I think what you're going to see is that unless if a deck has the ability to reliably free play characters, especially in ways that are natively built into the cards you want to be running in that deck anyways, unless if you have that, it's going to be a little bit hard to keep up with the meta. So with that in mind, let's go ahead and talk about the number one deck, in my opinion, from Sakamoto Days. And it's definitely relevant to what I was just saying about the free plays, because the strongest character in this deck is Taro Sakamoto. So this Taro Sakamoto, he comes in, has 5,000 BP, 5,000 BP impact 1 until until the end of the turn. He also has this effect that at the end of your attack phase, you will basically unraid him. So it's not quite the same as sidelining him, because you don't lose board presence altogether. You still have a character on the field, but it won't be this really powerful character. That's not actually all that bad, because there are lots of ways to boost your character's BP in this deck anyways. And you're really getting the biggest value out of him when you play him, because not only is he swinging through as a 5,000 impact character, you also are going to free play a yellow character, a yellow Sakamoto's character card with 3,500 or less BP and 1 AP cost set to active onto your field. So you're not only getting this really strong character, you're basically getting 2 strong characters at only 4 cost. And I think this really just highlights where the game is going. I think this deck will likely be an S tier deck, this Taro Sakamoto deck, because of this built-in free play mechanic, built into a 4 cost character, built into a 5,000 BP impact body. And that's really what Union Arena increasingly is becoming all about, is just free playing characters, overwhelming your opponent with just outpacing them in a way that they can't keep up with. And when you can do it on a low energy curve like this, that's pretty attractive. It's sort of like Purple Song, or Purple Yuna, as I call it, Purple Yuna, you can free play a bunch of characters. But you at least, with Purple Yuna, you at least have to manage an event card. With Sakamoto, you don't have to deal with an external card. You're just free playing. You're rating your main guy. He's got impact. He's got 5,000 BP, and you're free playing. And you can free play into really strong characters like this Liu Xiaotang. And Liu Xiaotang basically becomes a 4,000 BP double attack character relatively easily. So you can kind of see where this deck is going. You got a lot of other things in this deck too that are handy. You do have this really interesting 4-cost Taro Sakamoto with Nullify Impact and just a ton of character ability shutting down. So huge defensive play with the 4-cost Taro Sakamoto. You have the fake 2-cost Color Trigger Sakamoto that really every deck should have one of these. It's not really fair that they don't. But if on the front line, Sakamoto's affinity cards in your field other than Taro Sakamoto cannot be chosen by your opponent's character event card abilities. That's a huge layer of protection to all of your characters. So this deck's looking really, really strong. I like this 4-cost Liu Xiaotang as well. During your turn, if you have 3 or more Sakamoto's affinity cards with unique card names on your field, this character gains. This character cannot be blocked by a character with 4,000 more BP. This character attacks and is not blocked. Draw a card. I love this. So you can free play this character, right? This meets the prerequisites for the 4-cost Sakamoto. You can play that. Can't be blocked. You're getting draw. You're getting a lot of nice things, and you have plenty of BP boosting. I just got rid of her from the deck. Sorry about that. But you have plenty of BP boosting, via this 2-cost Aoi Sakamoto. Easily use her to boost characters by 1,000. So all of a sudden, those 3,500 BP characters or less are very, very threatening. So I really like this. I think this is a super cool deck. This would definitely be one of my top picks. There's a lot of cool decks in this set, though, as you're going to see in a moment. I do also have the 0-cost Xiaotang. During your turn, if you have 3 or more Sakamoto's affinity cards with unique card names, you feel this character gains 1,000 BP, becomes 3,000, easily boosts up. So you could probably want to play around with how many boosting effects you are feeling comfortable with. I went more for the well-rounded play, a little extra aggro with a Sakamoto. And it has a Sakamoto's affinity, so it fulfills a lot of your cards' prerequisites or requirements. And you can use this to switch a 3,500 less BP character with Sakamoto's affinity to active. That's really cool. So there's a lot of aggro. Kind of like an aggro-y deck. I like it. I think it's super cool. So this would be my top pick for strongest deck. But there are a lot of strong decks. Let's look at another one that I really like. And this is probably the one I'm going to build. And I think it's really strong. It's actually not really lacking much. It's got a lot of the pieces. I think it's a little higher than I originally ranked it as I've been experimenting with it myself. This deck is pretty cool. It's called The Order, and it really has everything you want in a deck. And I think its strongest character by a bit is the 5-cost Osaragi. And this 5-cost Osaragi is going to be with the turn when she's attacking. If you have performed an extra draw this turn, that's crazy. It's when attacking. If you have performed an extra draw this turn, draw up to 1 card. So you're doing another draw with her. You have a lot of draw built into this deck. And if this character was also played this turn, it gains 1,000 BP. Okay, so that's that. So you get the draw regardless, but if you played her that turn, she's becoming a 5,000 BP damage to impact 1 character. And if you know Union Arena, you know that combo of damage 2 with impact 1 is at 5,000 BP nonetheless is the holy grail in Union Arena. It doesn't really get much better than that. That's what you are looking for from a top tier attacker. So I actually am really liking this deck. This is the deck I'm going to build. So I haven't really lined up my products for this set yet, but it just kind of has everything. You have tons of draw. I love this 4-cost Osaragi. If on the front line you may perform an extra draw without paying an AP. I haven't checked the FAQs on this, but I'm assuming what this applies to is when you do your AP draw at the beginning of your turn, you can basically just do it for free. Like, what? That just seems so good. I love that effect. And then you have this guy, Shishiba, and this guy, you can use him to gain extra Energy, which basically you have that there. He functions as a 200 gen character, 3-cost 2 gen character, like he should, for your raid, which we'll talk about in a moment. But he also boosts to make it a lot easier to play this insane character. This guy is so crazy in the show. He's just crazy strong on the show. This Takamura. But let's read it. This card can only be played on a turn when you have performed an extra draw. So that's the big drawback, is you are going to have to get an extra draw. But I mean, in this deck, there's so many ways to do that. I don't really see that being much of an issue. But when played, switch this character to active. So this Takamura is coming in active. Choose up to one character in your opponent's front line or site. So you can sideline a character or a site. Just any of them. That's crazy. With 5,000 BP and active trigger, there's just no drawbacks to playing this guy. He's a little hard to fit into other purple decks from the set. Because of his 6 cost, you're really only going to be able to run him in this pure order build. But I just don't see why wouldn't you? He's so strong. And look at this Shishiba is also really cool. This Shishiba is, you can think of him as your built-in free play. So if you have performed an extra draw this turn, choose 1 or 2. Oh, choose 1 to 2. 1 to 2. What? Perform an extra draw this turn. Choose 1 to 2 of your resting AP cards. That's so weird. That's written so weirdly. Should be choose up to 2 of your resting AP cards. So weird. 1 to 2 of your resting AP cards and switch them to active. You can only activate the Shishiba ability 1 time each turn. So you can't like just raid a bunch of Shishibas and just keep using it. But if I'm reading that correctly, and I'll have to go check the facts, but if I'm reading that correctly, you're essentially, this guy is like a built-in final. You're playing him, you get to play somebody else, you have a 4,000 BP character on the field. The only thing is he doesn't do anything else. So he's not the greatest free play character we've seen, but he definitely fits that role of being a strong 4,000 BP raid character that's giving you some free play. So you can get multiple characters out in a turn. That's pretty crazy. So this is the deck I'm going to build and play. I'm really looking forward to it. This is a really fun deck. Another deck that people are pretty hyped about is this Sniping deck, and it's a lot of people who are probably will consider this one the strongest in the set. I think it's definitely up there. I think personally I like the Sakamoto for the free play is better, but this deck is really interesting. Let's go take a look at it. This deck has a new mechanic that we haven't really seen before that I can think of. There's some things that are similar, but nothing that's been 1-to-1 like this deck. And essentially, this deck is really focusing on forcing your opponent and you and your opponent are going to be revealing a lot of information. So let's look at this 4-cost Shin to give you an example. Your opponent reveals all the cards in their hand, place up to 1 card among them face up on the top of their deck. So that's doing a couple things. It's doing a little bit of control in their hand, right? You can see their hand. You can force them to just redraw a card. So they're losing a draw. But it's also opening up avenues for you to activate a lot of your abilities that are only going to activate if there is a face-up card somewhere in the deck or on the field. That's the main thing that this card is here for. It also has an activate main, draw a card, then turn the top card of your deck face up. If you draw a face-down card's ability, place 1 card for your hand to sideline. So pretty cool effect there. It ties in with a lot of your other things. You're really using that to set up this Mishimo's abilities. When played, this character gains Snipe until the end of the turn. Turn up to 1 of your life cards face up. Your opponent chooses 1 of their life cards. If it is face down, turn it face up. So you're revealing some information here. And then if there are a combined total of 3 or more face up cards in you and your opponent's decks and life areas, this character gains impact until the end of the turn. At 5 energy cost, having Snipe and Impact is very good. Now there's some definite management going on here. If it was just cards that you could control, if not the combined total of both you and your opponents, that does make this a little bit tricky. So that's the only reason why I'm not ranking this deck higher. There is a little bit of a gimmick here that feels like a bit of work to set up. There also isn't a crazy strong free play in this deck. And I think the free plays are really becoming a bigger deal. But let's just look at this 5 cost. We'll come back to the free play in a moment. Choose up to one character in your opponent's front line and switch it to resting. It will remain set to resting the next time it switches to active. If there's a face-up card on the top of your deck, you may add it to your hand. If you do, switch this character to active and turn the top card on your deck face up. So this guy's coming in active, essentially, as long as you pair it right or combo it right. It's deep freezing or an opposing character. Not bad, especially when you factor in the snipe impact combo at just 5 energy. But yeah, there's no free play, which I think sets it back a bit, except for this 2-cost color trigger Shin, which is giving you an option. We talk about this a lot. Whenever you have an option on a card to choose between different effects, that's stronger because you can adapt it to the situation you're in. Choose one of the following. Look at the top card of your deck, then place it on the top or bottom of your deck. If you place it on top, turn it face up, so you're fulfilling that number you're trying to reach to buff up some of your characters and abilities. This one's really interesting. If there is a face-up card in your opponent's deck or life area, so any face-up card at all, reduce the AP cost of the next card with 2 base AP costs you use from your hand this turn by 1. So the only free play really that you can get with this, you can reduce the cost of this Shin. You could go heavier on Shin. Maybe you're running some more Shin than just 2. Maybe you're running 4. Or this Mashimo. When played, choose up to one character in your opponent's front line, place it face up into their life area. That's crazy. So you can play him for less. You can play the Shin for 1 cost, which all of a sudden makes him really good, coming in active at just 1 AP and freezing the card. That's pretty good. But you can also use it on this 3-cost Asakura. If your opponent's deck or life area has a face-up card, reduce this card's AP cost by 1 while in your hand. So essentially, if he's in your hand and you've been able to use that reducing ability, then you can also play this guy for free, which is pretty cool because you can choose one of the following to draw a card, or you can turn the top card of your deck face up. So that's pretty good. So it's not great on the free play side though. Like this feels a little bit more like a Gen 1 kind of deck. Like this deck would have been crazy Gen 1 when free plays weren't happening, when decks were not as fast, and you could just build up to a strong attacker. But again, in a meta that's so focused on having a really easy and powerful free play character, or option to get easy, powerful free play characters, this one just feels a little bit slower. Now, what else do we have? Let's go ahead and look at, I was just working on this. Let's see if I have it open. Let's go look at, where was it? Oh, here it is. This deck, so I have built a couple different versions. I think the hybrid probably is actually going to be better. The thing about purple, that Osaragi character is just so good. You almost want to put her in every deck. But I think there's a lot of people out there who are just going to want to play the archetype as it is meant to be played. And so this is the version of this Sakamoto and Nagumo deck that's just as it's supposed to look, right? This Nagumo, again, this deck is really cool because it has a lot of interesting mechanics. It's the only one I can think of that's really focused on playing trigger effects without necessarily having to have them come out of your life. So just look at this 4-cost Taro Sakamoto. When played, draw a card. If on the front line, once per turn, look at the top 5 cards of your deck. Place up to 1 purple card with 2 or less required energy into your sideline. Place the remaining cards on the bottom of your deck in any order. Then activate the trigger ability on the card placed into your sideline with this ability. So that's pretty cool, right? You have that. You have this guy, this 4-cost Sakamoto, which lets you may place 1 card from your hand to your sideline. If you do, choose up to 1 character on your front line that is not rated and activate its trigger ability. Again, another way to do that. There's just a lot of ways to activate trigger abilities. You even have the raid Nagumo, which is your free play character essentially. If on the front line, choose up to 1 purple, this is a when played character card with a color ability from your sideline and activates trigger ability. So that would then essentially be a free play, right? You can free play a 2-cost or lower character. But you may place a top card from this rated character into your sideline. So you're essentially unrating this character. If you do, raid ability other than Nagumo instead. So you could then activate your Taro Sakamoto. If you're going with the hybrid build, then you also have the option to raid your Osaragi over and over. So I do have that build too. Let's can go take a look at that real quick. That one you are then able to play into the Osaragi and raid her, you're not going to be able to raid the Nagumo. So you're either playing a low-cost character for free or you're raiding. And one of the cool things is that you have this 2-cost Nagumo. Your character cards with raid can perform raid on this character. So this actually makes it even easier for you to use this Nagumo to bridge, a gap, or a bridge to place more raid characters in your deck. It's because you could raid over Nagumo with your Osaragi or anybody you wanted. And you can use the raid Nagumo to do this at any time and raid from your sideline. So it gives you a lot of flexibility. So take a look at those decks. I would personally run the hybrid. I think the hybrid's stronger with the Osaragi. Really, actually pretty darn strong. But that's how you build those two decks. Now, the last deck, and the only one that's really not pretty top tier, I would say the rest of these decks are definitely high A tier to Taro Sakamoto's. I would not be surprised to see as an S tier deck, the yellow. The only deck that really is just pretty lackluster and honestly, in my opinion, a little weird for being compared to the rest of these decks is this Labo deck. Again, I kind of threw Osaragi in here because I just kind of wasn't really sure what else to throw in here. She's just so good. But this deck is sort of odd. I think the coolest thing about this deck is this invisibility suit card. This invisibility suit card is kind of crazy. I'll just read it to you, and you can hear it for yourself. But purple character card with 4 less required energy, so it can be rated over anybody. This character cannot be chosen by your opponent's abilities. This character gains all when played and when attacking abilities on its base card. But to me, the really crazy thing is that this character cannot be chosen by your opponent's abilities at all. So it's not like just like a Saitama that can't be removed. This character can't be chosen by anything. That's pretty crazy. That is really, to me, the only really definitive thing about this deck. If you had other stronger stuff going on in this deck, it might make that worthwhile. You do have this really cool Siba card. During your opponent's turn, your opponent cannot choose this character with abilities on characters or event cards unless they pay 1 AP. Most people are just not going to want to do that, especially just to get rid of a 4,000 BP. But if they don't do it, in some ways you're trying to you're almost like forcing them to do it, because if they don't do it, I'll just read this to you. If on the front line once per turn, you cannot activate this ability on the turn this card is played. So you're basically trying to goad your opponent into using an AP to take him out. And if they don't, the next turn you can draw a card, and if you have 3 or more Labo affinity cards in your field and your opponent has 3 or more life, deal 1 damage to your opponent. You can just whittle away your opponent's life using the SIBO. So that's kind of what you're trying to do. You're almost trying to goad your opponent into using that 1 AP to get rid of him. Other than that, that's about it. There's not a whole lot else going on in this deck. This invisibility suit does play into these when played and when attacking effects. What was the other one? When it played and when attacking. So you can actually activate the when played when it's played, and the when attacking, which is pretty cool. Of the card it's rated over. So it's almost like you're gaining the abilities of the card it's rated over. I'm not sure if we've had something like that before. Maybe we have, but it kind of reminds me of a card in Pokemon that, like, there's this mechanic in Pokemon where you can use the evolution attacks and stuff from previous evolutions. I think that's what this reminds me of. But when attacking, you can play up to 1 purple Labo affinity card with 4 less required energy when P cost from your hand set to active on your field. So there's your free play. So if you already have, you can do this a couple times. Like you can reuse this basically if you've rated over them, which is pretty cool. When played, when attacking, choose up to 1 Labo affinity card in your field gains 1,000. When attacking, all Labo affinity cards in your field gain 1,000. So there's your boost. So you're turning any of your characters into strong characters. That's a mechanic that's becoming more and more prevalent. We've seen that with Song, and now we're seeing that here with Labo. But overall, just not nearly as strong of a deck as the rest of these. The rest of these are pretty, like, relatively upper tier, with, again, the yellow Sakamoto deck being the one that has the best odds in my books of being S tier. So where does that leave us in the meta? That's a good question. Let's take a look. I just updated this the other day, and let's take a look. Again, I told you yellow Sakamoto is the deck from this set that has the best chances of being S tier. And maybe you can say, oh, well, you have no idea what you're talking about. Well, I also said that too about Cha Jin-woo before it ended up winning a regional. So maybe it is the top deck from this set. Maybe I am right about that. We have a couple other decks here. Let's take a look at some of the other decks in the S tier right now. I know someone actually recently commented on the on this article and was saying, well, Purple Yuna and GGO don't have the results. And I agree with that. I actually thought about that when I was making this list. I was like, well, Purple Yuna and GGO don't have the competitive results in the English meta to really warrant this being S tier. But from my own personal experience, Purple Yuna and GGO are S tier. They're such strong decks. I think that's just more of a preference thing. I think eventually, like, we'll see these decks probably win more stuff. But they are definitely, in my opinion, S tier decks and can hang in there with S tier decks. And they have the makings of an S tier deck. They have all the stuff in them that an S tier deck should have right now with the free plays and the board control and all that stuff. So, but I also wouldn't think it was super wrong for you to say that they're a step down from that either. I think you could make that argument, but they're so strong and they can go toe to toe with any of these other decks on here. Red Kagurabachi has just proven itself just such a solid deck since it came out. Again, a deck with everything. It has removal, it has double attack, and it has pushback, it has draw, it has the free play, like one of the strongest free plays in my books. Like that, anytime you play against this and that guy just comes out. What's his name again? For some reason, I'm blanking on his name. The Togo. Okay, I was gonna say Togo. When this Togo comes out, holy cow! It's just so easy to get him out there. Ray Shinji, it's a tough deck to play, but definitely has the power to hang in there. Has a lot of utility, a lot of just, I don't even want to, like, has a lot of stuff going on. A lot of removal, a lot of utility. Really strong deck. This is an interesting one. The Purple Chihiro kind of came out. I kind of was not sure how this deck would do. It's really, really combo heavy and very tricky to play, but it's becoming super popular. I'm seeing this at locals. We're seeing this at top high level competitions. Definitely Purple Chihiro. I still think you could probably make the argument it's more of an A+ tier deck, but it definitely seems to be favorited right now. The Yellow Evangelion is arguably the strongest deck, and in terms of play share, it's one of the strongest decks. Definitely has plenty of free play in that deck. In my books, it's actually not as strong. I think some of these other decks are stronger personally than Yellow Evangelion. It could just be Yellow Evangelion has maybe an lower learning curve or something. That's why it's so popular. But I would actually not personally say Yellow Evangelion is necessarily way stronger than the other decks on this list. We have Red Kenshin, which is about to get a lot stronger soon with that fake cost. Once that fake cost goes back into Red Kenshin, we'll probably be seeing a Red Kenshin. I don't want to say dominant, but Red Kenshin will probably take one of the dominant spots in the otherwise relatively varied meta. You're going to be seeing a lot of Red Kenshin once that fake cost comes out. And guys, the former best deck is still hanging in there. Pretty strong. People are just running Mari to replace the cards that were removed. So where do we stand with the other decks? I was just talking to someone at a tournament locally about how much the game has changed. It used to be that you could kind of get away with playing just about anything, but the drop off from the top tier to the rest of the decks is a lot broader than it used to be. I wouldn't say it's so big from the S tier on my list to the A+. You can play these two categories together and still feel like you're relatively in the same world. You can see here, as I pointed out, Yellow Sakamoto is in the S tier. We do also have several other Sakamoto's decks, the Order, Purple Sakamoto, and Yellow Shen. All upper A tier decks. Shadow Army, borderline S tier. Mina Reno is still a solid deck. Purple Kaneki, CCG, Shun Crew, Saito, borderline S tier. Progressive, borderline A tier. It's on the lower end. Kenpachi Toshiro, solidly upper A tier. And then this Vile is probably borderline S tier. So you can have a lot of borderline decks here, but I think that's why they're in the A+. You can run these decks into the S tier decks and still feel like you're in the same world. But even you just go one step down into the A tier decks, and all of a sudden you're really feeling the age of these decks. These decks are sort of like the Union Arena 1.0 powerhouses, like Blue JJK, Ichigo Rukia, Purple Code, decks like this, Lancelot. These decks were so strong before the Union Arena changed and became so aggressive so fast. And not that I'm saying it's a bad thing. Obviously, I love Union Arena. I'm having a ton of fun with all the free play stuff. But these decks are definitely, you're going to feel a difference. And then you get even a step down. A lot of these decks that you once could really compete with just don't feel super hot all of a sudden, especially when you're going into the top decks with these B tier decks. So that's where we stand in the meta. I think overall it's a good place. But I just will say that the gap between the upper tiers like S and A+, are much greater to the step down below that, to the B tiers and below. It's like you're really feeling the difference in a way that you're feeling the difference a lot more than you used to maybe a year ago between all these decks. So I hope that was fun. I hope you learned a lot. I'm super excited about Sakamoto Days coming out. I think that's going to be a really fun set. I'm really excited about building my order deck, and basically both of the purple decks other than Labo. Both the purple decks look really cool, so I'm going to be building those. Hopefully you enjoyed that. Again, go and try out these decks yourself. Sakamoto Days came out the day the set list came out a week ago. I got the set list onto the builder. If you don't already know, you can build these decks and start theory crafting on the JWA deck builder. Let's go take a look at the deck builder. I've been building in JWA Premium, which has some stuff that the free version won't have, such as the deck sensei, which will walk you through areas of improvement as you're deck building. The risky mulligan, which will teach you how to mulligan better. I've been using this to get better at mulliganing myself. And that's about it. Also, cloud saving. You can save all of your decks and access them on any device, anytime. If you're a serious deck builder, this is the way to go. The JWA Premium. Also, of course, your trigger tracking down here and access to the premium. I haven't talked about this much either. I actually did build a UA collection tracker, and this gives you access to the premium. But these tools are available for free on the site. The JWA deck builder is largely the same. I definitely would encourage you to go onto the site and start building your decks. You can export, you can share, you can build your own deck library, save locally. You can even create a backup and restore. There's just a couple of features you won't have access to, but definitely everything you need to start doing serious deck building today. Hope you had fun with that. Until next time, keep on battling.